Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we have another fun discussion video. We're looking at the future of combo decks. I'm actually looking at 5 really cool options going forward into the future of Yu-Gi-Oh! These decks are not quite playable in the way that we're talking about today at this moment in time, but in the next couple months they will get stuff that allow them to come through. So if you are a player that does prefer combo oriented strategies, you can look down the line. You can maybe grab some stuff early, maybe cheaper even, by kind of eyeing these decks up now. And I just think these are 5 cool options that are, like, in my opinion, at least rogue, if not even better, that you can kind of get started on and get excited about into the next phase of Yu-Gi-Oh! So 5 options. They're in no particular order in terms of how good they are or how much I like them or anything. Just 5 different decks that I thought were cool, that when I looked at the landscape of what decks are getting support soon and broke them down in terms of this setup, I think there's quite a few decks you can mess around with, honestly, in any category, and we'll get to the others in later videos if you like this one. So stay tuned if you want to see this video, but also just want to keep an eye on what the next step play style will be. But let's jump into our first option here. Number 1 for me is this. It's Goblin Bikers. I think this is a really cool one. I think there's a couple interesting things here. So the first thing for me is that, like, yes, it has gotten support, but that's actually not even the biggest thing for me that I'm actually keeping an eye on here as far as what makes Goblin Bikers feel more relevant right now. So yes, we have gotten like the 3rd Speedroid Terratop during this calendar year. I think we've gotten the 3rd E-Telly. Actually, it may have been before this calendar year, but somewhat recently in the last couple of years. 3 E-Telly as well. And even some other stuff, the Armored Exceed package, obviously Zeus, Typhon, all that stuff, also has like something to say about how they can be played in this strategy. But I think the number 1 thing for me is we're actually about to walk into Ryzeal format. Ryzeal format's huge, right? Because Ryzeal is probably setting up to be the best deck in the game once it drops in about a month here in the TCG. And when that happens, the Goblin Biker engine gets significantly better. So the biggest thing, the biggest gimmick basically of this deck is that it's an XYZ based deck that's all based around like your monsters detaching material from an Exceed on field to like extend themselves onto the field. So the key thing here is it does not say that it has to be an XYZ monster you control. It's on either field. So when you play against Ryzeal, you can take materials from their monsters, which either forces them to lose types of interaction. They like to end on Detonator, who detaches one to like pop multiple times a turn, but just by detaching immediately, getting yourself the ability to lose one of those interactions immediately is really nice. Also, some other potential interruptions they end on that you may be able to nullify completely, which is really cool. And a lot of these effects activate in hand, so you don't even have to necessarily play into those, really. You can start detaching before you even commit to the field. I think is a really, really strong point for this deck. They do also get this new rank 6 in Supreme Darkness. This is another small bump. It's a card that, like, sure, it might find its way into the deck. This card doesn't wow me, to be honest, but I still think the deck has a lot of pieces in place. It has plenty of decent engine cards, decent other engines they could take advantage of. We just have to see if we can kind of put it all together and maybe take advantage of Ryzeal format. We actually saw recently, a couple weeks ago, I think it was like a 3v3 kind of tournament where it was just teams of 3 players. A team actually got first place playing all 3 Goblin Bikers because they were just in anti-Ryzeal format, basically. So we know it can work there to some degree, and I believe it'll be able to work here even better as well. So Goblin Biker, definitely the first one on the list. Number 2, White Forest. I think White Forest is cool. This one may have the highest meta potential, maybe, of the archetypes we're looking at today. This is already an archetype with a lot of potential. We know that, but the pure version we've seen feels like it relies a little too much on the toy box engine, and the Runic variant feels like Runic just isn't good enough, and it takes up so much space that you have no room for like non-engine, really. And Runic's just kind of not good enough going second currently. So with the new release of not Stellar, she's just a classic card, but specifically Azamina as LZ of the White Forest, she allows your Sinful Spoils engine, your Azamina engine, and the White Forest engine all to really blend in with a lot more synergy. Being able to just fuse you into some of your Azamina fusions, which can even just be the one that searches you into your Sinful Spoils engine, as well as this card when it's used as Synchro Material, just searching a Sinful Spoils card straight up. Really powerful as well. I think this card really helps blend the archetype together nicely. We already know that the Sinful Spoils engine and Azamine engine are some of the most powerful ones in the game right now, and I think it puts this deck in a much better position going forward, where it clears up a lot of the consistency issues some of the variants had, as well as clearing you a lot of room for non-engine, which the deck also felt like it really needed. So I think this deck's in a really good spot going forward. Next up, whoops, there we go. Sword Soul. Now, Sword Soul's weird because it's technically like Tenyi Sword Soul, and I know Tenyi is the actual archetype that got the support, but let's be honest, guys, if you're playing competitively, Tenyi's not enough on its own to be a full-on archetype. You need to play it with Sword Soul. And I think they get a legitimate buff here. They get 3 big cards from the Tenyi support, one of which is Tenyi Spirit Surya, and this card being a level 4 tuner is literally like, mwah, chef's kiss perfect, because that's exactly what Sword Soul was looking for, because one of the most awkward scenarios is going like normal summon Moye reveal, and then it just getting negated, because the deck didn't really have a ton of access to level 4 tuners other than that. So now having access to a level 4 tuner in that realm really makes for a really significant like buff in terms of an extender in that scenario, in a couple different scenarios. So this card's really good. It also cheats out one of your Tenyi Link monsters for free. Well, life points, but pretty free. Eternal Perfection of the Tenyi, new field spell that searches either Vessel of the Dragon Circle or Heavenly Dragon Circle. Both really good cards that we're already seeing play in Sword Soul for the most part. So being able to get either and having the utility there is really nice, as well as having some bonus utility, being able to like go out, pop monsters on the field, and even place the other Tenyi field spell in the field zone if you want, for potential draw power on the opponent's turn as well. So really, really good stuff. And then lastly, the Synchro. This just gets you the field spell, which is really good. I really just think this deck could be back up, especially as like at least a pretty powerful rogue contender. Maybe it even creeps up into tier 2. We'll have to see, but they definitely get some new toys, and I think they're good for it. And I think they'll prove that they're actually one of those threats yet again. Maybe not top level, but still really solid. ABC, or A to Z if you want to be specific on this one. This is one of those archetypes where I think because it was in Duels to Brilliance and we're not going to be getting it until like almost an entire year later in the TCG, a lot of hype has died down on this. But I'm not old enough, or I guess I am old enough to remember when a lot of hype was kind of being based around this. It was seeing a little bit of success in the OCG, and the OCG is even less kind to combo decks than the TCG is. I think there's a real chance here. Now, the Mulcharmies hurt this deck. They do. This is a deck that kind of wants to go pretty far before it can actually get to stuff. So the Mulcharmies are pretty painful, but this is one of those combo decks kind of similar to White Forest, where like you're going to be able to look down and fit 12 to 15 non-engine in your deck, which does help in that scenario as well. I just think, I really think this deck is a little bit underestimated, and other than the Mulcharmies, this deck does work pretty well around hand traps overall. So X-Cross Cannon being an amazing new normal summon / starter extender card. Union Controller, really awesome cards. Basically a Link 2 in the form of a fusion, which is really cool, that you can contact into, and even a new spell, Union Activation, that helps you extend, and even just help with consistency as well, potentially. So really good stuff. I really think this deck has just kind of gotten pushed to the wayside just because it's been so long since it came out in the OCG, and people are just kind of forgotten about it. But I think if there are enough people that really love ABC and want to come back to it, I do think this deck could actually see some success, especially on the rogue level. So there you go. Which brings us to the final archetype for today. Number 5 today is Punk. This one is pretty interesting, right? Because we have 2 cards coming in the OCG in December. We do not have a full date on, or a full like confirmed release on exactly what is coming, the 2 new cards. But we pretty much know, guys. The leaks came out. The Orcus cards were basically completely correct, which really leans towards it being completely correct as well, that these leaks are on point at the same time. So 2 new cards, and this is theoretically what we should be getting. So if you're working under this knowledge, you can start kind of, mapping out how you want to play Punk early. But it's a really cool deck. It draws 2 throughout its combo generally. It can set up some big synchro fusions, and can even take advantage of some really crazy stuff like Psychic End Punisher. So free wins in certain instances. But anyway, 2 new cards. The first one is an Exceed that can just be overlaid using any Punk extra deck monster, basically, Synchro or Fusion, for free. So just slap it right on there. So basically Dingirsu-esque in the way it can be summoned. And then both of its effects are hard ones per turn. The first one allows you to just detach a material and pay 600 to draw a card. That's so clean. Because there could be scenarios where you get to the field spell and don't have enough ways to pay. I think in most scenarios you would, but I think there could be some where you're only able to pay once, or you're only able to pay maybe not even at all. Like, you have a way to extend into the guy who searches the field spell, but at that point you may have exhausted all your ways to pay life points. So this card's really good. Not only just that, but like, we're drawing a card. Like, we're drawing a card for 600 life points. That's already really clean, especially if it triggers the field spell again, and then you're drawing 1 on your turn, and you're drawing 3 now in your main combo. And if this is a deck where we can fit, again, 12 to 15 on engine, 12 to 15 hand traps, we're drawing 3 after we've already dug through some of our engine. So we're drawing into these hand traps that are going to be able to fire at the opponent, which is really good. And the second effect, when your opponent activates a monster effect while you have a level 3 psychic in your grave, which you always will, quick effect, detach a material from this card, negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. So not only can you choose to draw a card with this, you can also just choose to make this a monster negation. The one key here to note as well is this card has no effect to like put materials on it. So when you summon this on top of a Synchro or a Fusion, you have 1 material. So you're going to have to make that decision whether you want to draw or you want to leave it up as a monster negate. But either way, it's a really solid. I think this card's really, really strong, for sure. And the other one just allows you is an extra, main deck monster, level 8 Water Sea Serpent, 3 hard monster turn effects. You can, what is this? Send this card from your hand to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. Oh, sorry, wait. Huh? I think this is kind of cut off a little bit, but I think that's what it does. You can, or maybe it's pay 600. I can't even read this, but I think it's either send a card from your hand to the graveyard to summon this card back, but whatever. Second effect, if this card is special summoned, you can pay 600 life points to either add to your hand or special summon a non-level 8 punk monster from your deck or graveyard. That's so good, man. That's so good. So not only does this put itself on the field as a level 8 extender, but then it summons or adds another punk straight from the deck. That's so good. So in a scenario where you've already been stopped, negated on Xiamen or whatever, summon this and then summon the guy who searches the field spell. So then you're searching the field spell. You're going to be able to probably draw 2 or 3 times, depending on if you want to use the Exceed to draw or not. You're going to be able to have a line into a level 11 if you want. You can go into the Fusion if you haven't already to extend from there. A bunch of stuff. It also has another effect where if an opponent activates an attack position monster with 2,500 or more attack, you can change it to defense position. That's not a huge effect, but like it actually could maybe come up in random scenarios where you're changing something big attack, small defense into defense. You can run over it. Or if your opponent summons something big and is trying to threaten game, switching something big to defense that they can't push for game could give you another turn. So there's some cool applications there. But regardless, without digging in too much more into these guys, I know I've already probably gone deeper than I should have. These are really good cards. These legitimately take Punk to the next level. I even think Pure Punk might be back because of these 2 new cards. And especially if you can fit a lot on engine, drawing 2 to 3 cards turn 1, setting up another 1 to 4 interruptions aside from that with just good synchro plays and stuff in a deck that doesn't lock you. You already have access to 3 emergency teleport. Like, the deck has a million starters now, and even better extension than it did before. So I think this deck's pretty good. I think this deck's going to be a pretty cool combo deck. You may even be able to play it almost as a mid-range strategy, but it felt more combo to me based on what we used to do with the deck. But really, really cool. If these cards are exactly correct, like we're thinking at this point, I think this is a really cool combo deck to add to the conversation going forward. And it's one of those, because it's not even out in the OCG yet, I'm not even sure exactly how good it can be. There's a world where this is like a really good deck, but I'm just not entirely sure just yet. But still, really, really cool to see. So yeah, I'm out of here today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Let me know your thoughts down below out of these 5, or if there are any other upcoming combo-ish decks you thought could have been on this list. I left off a couple. These were just the 5 that I thought were the most interesting going forward. And yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. But I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you want to see other ones as well. I think I have a more control mid-range video coming up, and maybe we'll even dip into going second decks as well. But we'll just have to wait and see on that. But I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.